In the bustling corridors of Nebula Station, a sprawling space hub at the crossroads of galactic commerce, Lieutenant Zara Novak found herself drawn to an unusual commotion. The station's diverse inhabitants, a kaleidoscope of alien species, were gathered around a small, dingy shop tucked away in a forgotten corner. Zara's curiosity piqued as she approached the crowd. Her emerald eyes widened as she caught sight of the source of the disturbance, a tiny, trembling creature huddled in a rusty cage. Its iridescent fur shimmered despite the dim lighting, and its large, sorrowful eyes seemed to plead for help. "What's going on here?" Zara asked, her voice cutting through the murmur of the onlookers. A gruff voice responded, "Just getting rid of some worthless inventory." The shop owner, a bulbous alien with multiple tentacles, gestured dismissively at the cage. "No one wants it. Too weak, too small. It'll probably die soon anyway." Zara's heart clenched at the callousness in the alien's voice. She stepped closer, examining the creature more closely. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before, a blend of feline grace and avian features, with delicate wings folded tightly against its body. "How much?" Zara found herself asking before she could think better of it. The shop owner's eyes glinted with sudden interest. "For you, human. 500 credits." Zara knew she was being overcharged, but the creature's pitiful state left her with little choice. She transferred the credits, ignoring the disapproving looks from some of the other aliens. As she reached for the cage, the creature let out a soft, melodious chirp that seemed to resonate with something deep within her. Back on her ship, the Stargazer, Zara gently placed the cage on the medbay table. Dr. Elias Venn, the ship's medical officer, raised an eyebrow at the new arrival. "Found another stray, Lieutenant?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. Zara shrugged, a sheepish smile on her face. "You know me, document couldn't leave it there to die." Dr. Venn's expression softened as he examined the creature. "Well, let's see what we've got here." His hands moved deftly, scanning and assessing its condition. Malnourished, dehydrated, but no serious injuries. "It's a fighter, this one." As if understanding it was being discussed, the creature chirped again, its eyes fixed on Zara. She felt an inexplicable connection, a sense of responsibility that went beyond mere sympathy. "What do you think it is?" Zara asked, gently stroking the creature's fur through the cage bars. Dr. Venn shook his head. "I've never seen anything like it. Its DNA structure is fascinating. Almost as if it's been engineered." A knock on the medbay door interrupted their discussion. Captain Riker strode in, his imposing figure filling the room. His eyes narrowed as he spotted the cage. "Lieutenant Novak, care to explain our new guest?" Zara straightened, meeting her captain's stern gaze. "Sir, I found it abandoned on Nebula Station. It was in dire condition, and I couldn't leave it behind." Captain Riker's expression remained impassive, but Zara caught a flicker of something, curiosity, perhaps, in his eyes. "And what do you propose we do with it?" "We're not running a menagerie here, Lieutenant." Before Zara could respond, the creature let out a series of melodious chirps, its wings fluttering slightly. To everyone's surprise, the lights in the medbay dimmed and brightened in sync with its song. Captain Riker's eyebrows shot up. "Well, that's certainly unexpected." Dr. Venn leaned in, his scientific curiosity piqued. "Incredible. It seems to have some sort of ability to manipulate energy fields. Captain, this creature could be of significant scientific interest." Zara saw her opportunity. "Sir, if I may, I'd like to take responsibility for it. I'll ensure it doesn't interfere with our mission." Captain Riker considered for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, Lieutenant. But keep it under control. At the first sign of trouble, we'll have to reconsider this arrangement." As the captain left, Zara turned back to the creature. Its eyes seemed to sparkle with gratitude, and she felt a surge of protectiveness. "Don't worry, little one," she whispered. You're safe now. Little did Zara know that her act of kindness would set in motion a series of events that would challenge her crew, test the limits of interspecies understanding, and ultimately showcase the very best of humanity's compassion and determination. As news of the mysterious creature spread through the Stargazer, crew members began to trickle into the medbay, curious to catch a glimpse. Engineer Tomas Reeves, a jovial man with a penchant for tinkering, was particularly fascinated. "Have you tried giving it a name yet?" he asked, peering into the cage where the creature was now contentedly nibbling on some nutrient-rich food Dr. Venn had prepared. Zara shook her head. "I've been calling it Little One, but you're right. It needs a proper name." As if on cue, the creature trilled a series of notes that sounded remarkably like the ship's engine hum. Tomas's eyes widened in delight. "Well, it's mimicking our warp core." An idea struck Zara. "How about Nova? It's small but full of energy, just like a star." The creature chirped happily, as if approving of its new name. Dr. Venn nodded, making a note on his datapad. "Nova it is, then. Now, let's see about getting you a more comfortable habitat, shall we?" As the days passed, Nova became an unofficial mascot of sorts for the Stargazer crew. Its ability to mimic sounds and manipulate energy fields proved both entertaining and occasionally useful, helping Tomas detect subtle fluctuations in the ship's systems. However, not everyone on board was thrilled with Nova's presence. Security Chief Lyra Vex, a stern woman with a no-nonsense attitude, viewed the creature with suspicion. "We know nothing about its origins or capabilities," she argued during a staff meeting. "For all we know, it could be a spy or a weapon." Zara bristled at the accusation. "Nova's just a lost, innocent creature. It needs our help, not our suspicion." Captain Riker held up a hand to quell the brewing argument. "Both of your concerns are valid. We'll continue to monitor Nova closely, but for now, it stays. Lieutenant Novak, I'm tasking you with documenting Nova's abilities and behavior. Perhaps we can learn something valuable." As the meeting adjourned, Zara couldn't shake a feeling of unease. She had grown attached to Nova, and the thought of it being viewed as a potential threat troubled her deeply. That night, as Zara sat in her quarters reviewing sensor logs, she heard a soft scratching at her door. Opening it, she found Nova hovering in the corridor, its wings beating gently. Somehow, it had managed to escape its habitat in the medbay. "How did you get here?" Zara whispered, ushering Nova inside before anyone could spot it. Nova chirped softly, nuzzling against Zara's hand. As she stroked its fur, Zara felt a sudden, inexplicable warmth spreading through her mind. Images flashed before her eyes, strange alien landscapes, advanced technology, and a sense of profound loneliness. Gasping, Zara pulled her hand away. Nova looked up at her, its eyes filled with an intelligence that seemed far beyond that of a simple animal. In that moment, Zara realized that there was far more to Nova than anyone had imagined. As the Stargazer continued its journey through the stars, Zara knew that her decision to rescue Nova had set them all on a path of discovery, one that would challenge their perceptions of life in the universe and test the very limits of human compassion. As the Stargazer continued its journey through the cosmos, Zara found herself spending more and more time with Nova. The alien creature's presence had brought a new energy to the ship, and its unique abilities continued to astound the crew. One quiet evening, Zara sat in the observation deck, gazing at the stars streaking by. Nova chirped softly, nestled in her lap. As she stroked its iridescent fur, she felt that same warmth spreading through her mind, accompanied by vivid images. "You're trying to tell me something, aren't you?" Zara whispered. Nova's eyes seemed to sparkle with intelligence as it trilled a series of melodious notes. Suddenly, the observation deck's lights dimmed and brightened in sync with Nova's song. Engineer Tomas, who had been passing by, stopped in his tracks. "Well, it's interfacing with our systems somehow." Zara nodded, her excitement growing. Tomas, I think Nova is trying to communicate. But how can we understand? Tomas scratched his chin thoughtfully. You know, I might have an idea. Give me a few hours in the lab. As Tomas set to work, Zara continued to bond with Nova. She noticed that the creature seemed to respond to her emotions, offering comfort when she felt stressed and sharing in her joy during moments of discovery. Hours later, Tomas returned with a small device. It's a rudimentary translator, he explained. It might help us decipher Nova's vocalizations. With bated breath, they activated the device. Nova chirped, and to their amazement, words began to form on the screen. Home, lost, danger, the device translated. Zara's heart raced. Nova, can you tell us more about your home? Through a series of chirps and trills, Nova painted a picture of a beautiful world, filled with creatures like itself. But shadows loomed in the story, a great threat that had forced Nova's kind into hiding. As the crew gathered to hear Nova's tale, Captain Riker's expression grew serious. It seems we've stumbled upon something much bigger than we anticipated. Nova's people might need our help. Security Chief Lyra Vex, who had been skeptical of Nova, now looked intrigued. If there's a threat out there capable of endangering an entire species, we need to know more. It could pose a risk to others in the galaxy. Dr. Venn nodded in agreement. Not to mention the ethical implications. If Nova's people are in danger, don't we have a responsibility to help? Zara felt a surge of determination. We can't just sit by and do nothing. Nova trusted us, we need to help its people. Captain Riker considered for a moment, then nodded. Agreed. But we need to proceed cautiously. We don't know what we're up against. As the crew began to formulate a plan, Nova's chirps became more urgent. The translator struggled to keep up, but one word came through clearly, coming. Before anyone could react, the ship's alarms blared to life. Tomas rushed to the console, his eyes widening. Captain, we've got multiple ships dropping out of warp. They're on an intercept course. The observation deck's viewscreen flickered to life, revealing a fleet of sleek, predatory-looking vessels. Their design was unlike anything the crew had ever seen before. Captain Riker's voice rang out over the ship's comm system. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. As the crew scrambled to their positions, Zara held Nova close. The creature trembled in her arms, its eyes fixed on the approaching ships. It's okay, Zara whispered, though her own heart was pounding. We'll protect you. The Stargazer's engines roared to life as Captain Riker maneuvered to evade the oncoming fleet. Weapons fire lit up the void of space, and the ship shuddered under the assault. In the chaos of the battle, Nova began to glow faintly. Its eyes locked with Zara's, and suddenly, she understood. Nova wasn't just a lost creature, it was a key. A key to unlocking powers that could either save or destroy entire civilizations. As the realization dawned on her, Zara knew that their simple act of kindness in rescuing Nova had set them on a path that would challenge everything they thought they knew about the universe. The battle raging outside was just the beginning of a much larger conflict, one that would test the limits of human compassion, ingenuity, and determination. With Nova by their side, the crew of the Stargazer prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, ready to fight not just for their own survival, but for the fate of an entire species. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as humanity stood on the brink of a cosmic revelation that would change everything. The Stargazer soared through the vastness of space, its crew more determined than ever to uncover the mystery surrounding Nova. Captain Riker had set a course for the remote planet Zephyria, rumored to be a haven for rare and exotic creatures. As they approached Zephyria's swirling atmosphere, Zara felt a surge of excitement. She glanced at Nova, nestled comfortably in a specially designed harness. The creature's eyes sparkled with an intelligence that still amazed her. Entering Zephyria's atmosphere, Tomas announced from the helm. Brace for turbulence. The ship shuddered as it pierced through layers of dense clouds. When they emerged, a breathtaking landscape unfolded before them. Floating islands dotted the sky, connected by shimmering bridges of energy. Dr. Ven's voice crackled over the comm, "I'm picking up unusual energy readings. They're similar to Nova's signature, but much stronger." Captain Riker nodded. "Set us down on that central island. We'll proceed with caution." As the crew disembarked, they were met by a group of tall, ethereal beings. Their translucent skin shimmered with an inner light, and their eyes held wisdom beyond human comprehension. One of the beings stepped forward, its voice a melodious whisper. "Welcome, travelers. We are the Zephyrians. We have been expecting you." Zara's eyes widened in surprise. "You knew we were coming?" The Zephyrian nodded. "We sensed the presence of one of our own. The one you call Nova." Nova chirped excitedly, its body glowing with a soft light. The Zephyrians gathered around, their expressions a mix of joy and sorrow. "Nova is not just a pet," the lead Zephyrian explained. "It is a guardian, created to protect the balance of life in our galaxy. Its kind were scattered across the stars to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands." Captain Riker frowned. "The Kreth. They're after Nova's powers, aren't they?" The Zephyrian's face darkened. "The Kreth seek to use the Guardian's abilities for conquest. They must be stopped." As the Zephyrians shared their knowledge, the crew learned of an ancient conflict that had shaped the galaxy. Nova and its kind were living weapons, capable of influencing minds and manipulating energy on a massive scale. Lyra, ever cautious, voiced her concerns. "If Nova is so powerful, how can we be sure it won't turn against us?" The lead Zephyrian smiled gently. "The Guardians bond with those who show true compassion. Your act of kindness in saving Nova has forged a connection that cannot be broken." Zara felt a warmth spread through her chest as Nova nuzzled against her. She understood now why she had felt so drawn to the creature from the beginning. "We'll help you," Captain Riker declared. "But we need to know more about what we're up against." The Zephyrians led the crew to an ancient temple, its walls covered in glowing symbols. As they entered, holographic images sprang to life, showing the history of the Guardians and their creators. Dr. Ven marveled at the advanced technology. This could revolutionize our understanding of the universe. As they delved deeper into the temple's secrets, alarms suddenly blared to life. Tomas checked his communicator, his face pale. "Captain, we've got incoming ships. It's the Kreth." The peaceful atmosphere of Zephyria shattered as Kreth warships descended from the sky. Their weapons charged, ready to rain destruction upon the floating islands. Captain Riker's voice rang out, steady and determined. "Everyone, back to the ship. We need to protect Nova and the Zephyrians." As they raced back to the Stargazer, Zara felt Nova trembling in her arms. She looked down at the creature, seeing fear but also a fierce determination in its eyes. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're in this together." The crew scrambled to their stations as the Stargazer lifted off. Captain Riker's hands flew over the controls, maneuvering the ship between the floating islands to avoid the Kretha's fire. "Shields at maximum." Lyra shouted, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. The space around Zephyria erupted into chaos as the Stargazer engaged the Kreth fleet. Energy beams crisscrossed the sky, and explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. In the midst of the battle, Nova began to glow brightly. Its eyes locked with Zara's, and suddenly, she understood what needed to be done. "Captain," she called out. "I think Nova can help us. We need to get closer to the Kreth ships." Captain Riker hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Tomas, bring us in close. Zara, whatever you and Nova are planning, make it count." As the Stargazer weaved through the enemy formation, Zara held Nova up to the viewscreen. The creature's glow intensified, and a wave of energy pulsed outward. The effect was immediate. The Kreth ships began to falter, their weapons powering down. On the comm channels, confusion and panic could be heard in the Kreth voices. "It's working!" Tomas exclaimed. "Their systems are shutting down." With the Kreth fleet disabled, the Zephyrians' own defenses sprang to life. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the floating islands, enveloping the enemy ships in a containment field. As the last of the Kreth vessels was secured, a cheer went up from the Stargazer's crew. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. The lead Zephyrian's voice came through the comm, filled with gratitude. "Thank you, brave humans. You have saved not only our world but perhaps the entire galaxy." As the adrenaline of battle faded, Zara looked down at Nova. The creature gazed back at her, its eyes filled with trust and affection. She realized that their journey was far from over. There were more guardians to find, more worlds to protect. Captain Riker's voice cut through her thoughts. "Well done, everyone. But something tells me this is just the beginning." Zara nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "You're right, Captain. Our real adventure is just starting." As the Stargazer prepared to leave Zephyria, Zara knew that they had stumbled upon something greater than they could have ever imagined. With Nova by their side and the spirit of human compassion guiding them, they were ready to face whatever challenges the universe had in store. The stars beckoned, full of promise and peril. And humanity, in all its determined glory, was ready to answer the call. As the dust settled from their recent victory, the crew of the Stargazer found themselves at a crossroads. They had successfully repelled the Kreth attack, but they knew this was far from over. Captain Riker called a meeting in the ship's conference room to discuss their next move. "We can't keep running forever," Riker said, his voice firm. "It's time we find out exactly why the Kreth are so desperate to get their hands on Nova." Zara nodded, stroking Nova's iridescent fur. "Agreed. But how do we do that without putting Nova in danger?" Dr. Venn, who had been analyzing the data from their recent encounters, spoke up. "I think I might have an idea. During the last attack, I noticed something odd about the Kreth's energy signatures. They seem to be using technology similar to Nova's abilities." Tomas leaned forward, intrigued. "Are you saying they've managed to replicate Nova's powers somehow?" "Not exactly," Dr. Venn replied. "But I believe they're trying to. If we can track the source of that technology, we might find some answers." Captain Riker considered this for a moment. "It's risky, but it might be our best shot. Tomas, can you modify our sensors to detect these energy signatures?" Tomas grinned. "Give me a few hours in the engine room, and I'll have us sniffing out Kreth tech like bloodhounds." As the crew prepared for their daring mission, Zara spent time with Nova in her quarters. The alien creature seemed to sense the gravity of the situation, its usual playful demeanor replaced by a solemn focus. "I promise we'll keep you safe," Zara whispered, her voice filled with determination. Nova chirped softly, its eyes conveying a trust that touched Zara's heart. Hours later, the Stargazer was ready. Tomas had worked his magic on the ship's sensors, and they were now capable of detecting the unique energy signature of the Kreth's Nova-inspired technology. "I've got something," Lyra called out from her station. "It's faint, but there's definitely a trail leading to the Nix Nebula." Captain Riker nodded. "Set a course. But approach with caution. We don't know what we're walking into." As the Stargazer entered the swirling gases of the Nix Nebula, an eerie silence fell over the ship. The usual background hum of space was muffled, creating an unsettling atmosphere. Suddenly, alarms blared to life. "Multiple ships decloaking." Lyra shouted. "They've got us surrounded." Before anyone could react, a familiar face appeared on the view screen. It was Zarth, the Kreth leader they had encountered before. His scarred face twisted into a cruel smile. Well, Zarth sneered. "You've saved us the trouble of hunting you down. Hand over the creature, and we might let you live." Captain Riker stood tall, his voice unwavering. We know you're after Nova's abilities. Why? What are you planning? Zartha's eyes narrowed. You humans are so naive. That creature is the key to controlling the minds of entire civilizations. With its power, the Kreth will rule the galaxy. As Zarth spoke, Nova began to glow. Its eyes locked with Zara's, and suddenly, she understood. Nova wasn't just a pet or a weapon. It was a guardian, created to protect the balance of the universe. You're wrong, Zara said, her voice filled with newfound conviction. Nova isn't a tool for your conquest. It's here to stop beings like you. Zartha's face contorted with rage. Enough. Prepare to be boarded. As the Kreth ships closed in, Nova's glow intensified. The creature let out a melodious trill that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of space. Suddenly, the Stargazer's systems surged with power. What's happening? Tomas exclaimed, watching in awe as the ship's energy levels skyrocketed. Dr. Ven's eyes widened in realization. It's Nova. It's channeling its power through our systems. With a burst of energy, the Stargazer broke free from the Kretha's trap. The ship moved with impossible speed and agility, effortlessly evading the enemy's attacks. As the crew watched in amazement, Nova's influence spread beyond their ship. The Kreth vessels began to falter, their weapons and engines failing. They're retreating. Lyra shouted triumphantly. As the last Kreth ship disappeared into the nebula, the crew of the Stargazer let out a collective sigh of relief. They had faced their greatest challenge yet and emerged victorious. Captain Riker turned to Zara and Nova, a look of wonder on his face. I think it's time we learned the full truth about our little friend here. As the Stargazer set a course for safer space, the crew knew that their adventure was far from over. They had glimpsed the true power of their alien companion, and with it, the responsibility they now carried. The stars stretched out before them, full of new mysteries to unravel and challenges to face. But with Nova by their side and the unbreakable bond of their crew, they were ready for whatever the universe had in store. As the battle raged on, Zeke's powers reached new heights. The little alien creature, once weak and abandoned, now stood as humanity's greatest hope against the Kreth invasion. Captain Riker watched in awe as Zeke's influence spread across the battlefield, disrupting the Kretha's communication and weakening their resolve. It's working. Tomas shouted from his station. The Kreth ships are falling back. Zara held Zeke close, her eyes shining with pride and determination. You're doing great, little one. Just a bit longer. But the Kreth weren't about to give up so easily. Their leader, Zarth, appeared on the view screen, his face contorted with rage. You think you've won, humans? You have no idea of the forces you're dealing with. Suddenly, a massive ship emerged from hyperspace, dwarfing even the largest Kreth vessels. Its hull pulsed with an eerie energy that seemed to drain the very light from the surrounding space. Dr. Ven's eyes widened in recognition. That's Aeolian technology. They've managed to salvage one of the ancient ships. As the colossal vessel approached, Zeke began to tremble. Zara could feel waves of fear and desperation emanating from the little creature. What's wrong, Zeke? She asked, her voice filled with concern. Captain Riker's face hardened. They're trying to override Zeke's abilities. We need to act fast. The crew sprang into action, each member working in perfect harmony. Tomas rerouted power to the shields, while Lyra coordinated their defensive maneuvers. Dr. Ven worked frantically to boost Zeke's natural shielding, hoping to protect him from the Kretha's influence. As the battle reached its climax, Zara made a bold decision. Captain, I have an idea. It's risky, but it might be our only chance. Riker nodded, trusting his crew implicitly. Do it. Zara took a deep breath and addressed Zeke directly. Zeke, I know you're scared. But remember why we're fighting. Remember all the kindness and love you've experienced with us. Use that feeling, amplify it, and send it right back at them. Zeke's eyes locked with Zara's, and in that moment, a profound understanding passed between them. The little alien began to glow, its body pulsing with an otherworldly light. A wave of pure empathy and compassion radiated outward, engulfing both the Stargazer and the Kreth fleet. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Kreth soldiers dropped their weapons, overcome by emotions they had long suppressed. The massive Aeolian ship's energy field flickered and died, its systems overloaded by the sheer force of Zeke's projection. In the midst of the chaos, Zartha's ship attempted one final, desperate attack. But as his vessel charged towards the Stargazer, something extraordinary happened. The ship's crew, touched by Zeke's influence, mutinied against their leader. Zartha's reign of terror was over. As the dust settled, the Stargazer's crew gathered on the bridge, hardly daring to believe their victory. Captain Riker broke the silence, his voice filled with pride. "Well done, everyone. Especially you, Zeke. You've shown us all the true power of compassion." Zara hugged Zeke tightly, tears of joy streaming down her face. "You did it, little one. You saved us all." The aftermath of the battle brought about profound changes. The Kreth, freed from their warlike conditioning, sued for peace. The galactic community, impressed by humanity's role in ending the conflict, welcomed Earth into its ranks with open arms. As for Zeke, he became a symbol of hope and unity throughout the galaxy. The Stargazer's crew, hailed as heroes, dedicated themselves to finding and protecting other members of Zeke's species, ensuring that their unique gifts would never again be exploited. In the end, it wasn't advanced technology or military might that saved the day. It was the simple act of kindness, a human hand reaching out to help an abandoned alien pet, that changed the course of galactic history. The story of Zeke and the crew of the Stargazer would be told for generations to come, a shining example of humanity's capacity for compassion, bravery, and love. In the months following the epic battle against the Kreth, the galaxy entered a period of unprecedented peace and cooperation. The Stargazer, once a simple exploration vessel, now found itself at the center of a new interstellar initiative aimed at fostering understanding between different species. Captain Riker stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. "I never thought I'd see the day," he mused, a hint of wonder in his voice. Zara joined him, Zeke perched contentedly on her shoulder. "It's amazing how much has changed, isn't it?" Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Ven's excited voice over the intercom. "Captain, Zara. You need to come to the lab immediately. I've made a breakthrough." Intrigued, they hurried to the medical bay. Dr. Ven was practically bouncing with excitement as they entered. "I've been analyzing Zeke's DNA and comparing it to the data we gathered from the Aeolian ship. I think I've found a way to locate others of his species." The news sent a ripple of excitement through the crew. Finding more of Zeke's kind had been their primary mission since the battle, but until now, they had no leads. "That's incredible, Doc," Tomas exclaimed. "But where do we start looking?" Dr. Ven pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. "Based on my calculations, there should be a small colony of Zeke's species here, in the Andromeda Nebula. It's a remote and treacherous region, but if I'm right, it's where the Aeolians hid them for safekeeping." Captain Riker nodded, determination in his eyes. "Set a course for the Andromeda Nebula. It's time we brought Zeke's people home." The journey to the nebula was fraught with challenges. Strange anomalies and space-time distortions tested the crew's skills and resolve. But with each obstacle overcome, their bond grew stronger. As they neared their destination, Zeke became increasingly agitated. Zara could sense a mix of excitement and apprehension from the little alien. "It's okay, Zeke," she soothed. "We're almost there." Suddenly, the ship's sensors lit up. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple life signs." Lyra called out. "They match Zeke's biosignature." The crew watched in awe as they entered a hidden pocket of space within the nebula. A small, lush planet came into view, its surface dotted with structures that seemed to blend seamlessly with the natural environment. As the Stargazer descended towards the planet's surface, they were met by a group of creatures that looked remarkably like Zeke. Their bodies shimmered with iridescent colors, and their large, expressive eyes regarded the humans with a mix of curiosity and caution. Zeke let out a series of melodious chirps, and the other creatures responded in kind. The air seemed to vibrate with their communication. "They're welcoming us," Zara translated, her empathic abilities allowing her to sense the aliens' emotions. "They've been waiting for this day for a long time." As the crew disembarked, they were led to a grand structure that seemed to pulse with living energy. Inside, they found ancient Aeolian technology seamlessly integrated with the natural world. An elder of Zeke's species approached them, its eyes filled with wisdom and kindness. Through a series of gestures and empathic projections, it began to share the true history of their people. The crew learned that Zeke's species, known as the Harmonizers, were created by the Aeolians to be guardians of peace in the galaxy. But when the Aeolians foresaw a great darkness coming, they hid the Harmonizers away, knowing that one day they would be needed again. As the elder's tale concluded, Captain Riker stepped forward. "We come in peace and friendship," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "We hope to learn from you and to help protect you, as you once protected the galaxy." The elder's eyes sparkled with approval. It gestured toward Zeke, then to the humans, and finally to the stars above. The message was clear: together, they would forge a new path for the galaxy. As the sun set on this new world, the crew of the Stargazer realized that their greatest adventure was just beginning. With the Harmonizers as allies and the lessons of compassion and understanding they had learned, humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. Zara looked at Zeke, who was happily interacting with his kind. "You know," she said softly, "when I found you in that dingy shop, I never imagined it would lead to all this." Zeke chirped happily, his eyes filled with gratitude and love. In that moment, Zara knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, the bond between humans and Harmonizers would be a force for good in the universe. As night fell, the crew gathered under the alien sky, sharing stories and laughter with their new friends. The future was uncertain, but filled with hope. And it all began with a simple act of kindness towards a small, abandoned alien pet. Years passed, and the alliance between humans and Harmonizers flourished. The Stargazer, now joined by a fleet of similar vessels, continued its mission of exploration and peacekeeping across the galaxy. Each ship carried a crew of both humans and Harmonizers, their unique abilities complementing each other in ways no one could have imagined. Zara, now a seasoned diplomat, stood on the bridge of the Stargazer II, Zeke by her side. They were approaching a newly discovered planet on the edge of known space, hoping to make first contact with its inhabitants. "Ready for another adventure, old friend?" Zara asked, scratching Zeke behind his ears. Zeke chirped happily, his iridescent fur shimmering with excitement. Though he had aged, his spirit remained as vibrant as ever. Captain Riker, his hair now streaked with gray, joined them at the view screen. "Hard to believe how far we've come," he mused. "And it all started with you, Zeke." As they entered orbit around the new world, sensors detected signs of an advanced civilization. But there was something else, readings that were eerily familiar. Dr. Venn, who had insisted on joining this mission despite his advancing years, burst onto the bridge. "Captain, you're not going to believe this. The energy signatures from the planet, they're Aeolian." The crew exchanged shocked glances. Could it be possible? Had they stumbled upon the long-lost homeworld of the beings who created the Harmonizers? As they prepared for first contact, Zeke suddenly began to glow, his body pulsing with an otherworldly light. The ship's systems responded, interfaces changing to display information in ways they had never seen before. "It's some kind of activation signal," Tomas exclaimed, his fingers flying over the controls. "Zeke's unlocking Aeolian systems we didn't even know we had." A massive hologram appeared in the center of the bridge, showing a being of pure energy. Its voice, when it spoke, seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Greetings, children of Earth and guardians of harmony. We have waited eons for this moment. You have proven yourselves worthy successors to our legacy. The being explained that the Aeolians had not died out, but had evolved beyond physical form. They had been watching and guiding from afar, waiting for the day when humans and harmonizers would unite and find their way to this place. The darkness we foresaw has passed, the Aeolian said, thanks to your courage and compassion. Now, it is time for us to pass on our knowledge and responsibilities to you. The implications were staggering. The Aeolians offered humanity and the harmonizers the keys to technologies and understanding beyond their wildest dreams. But with it came a great responsibility, to become the new guardians of peace and balance in the galaxy. As the crew of the Stargazer II absorbed this monumental revelation, Zara felt a tug on her sleeve. She looked down to see Zeke, his eyes filled with a wisdom that seemed to span millennia. In that moment, she understood. Every choice, every act of kindness, had led them to this point. From a small, abandoned pet to the cusp of a new era for all sentient beings. Captain Riker stepped forward, his voice steady and resolute. We accept this honor and responsibility. We will do our best to live up to the trust you've placed in us. The Aeolian being seemed to smile, though it had no discernible face. We know you will. The future of the galaxy is in good hands. As the hologram faded, the crew of the Stargazer II looked at each other, a mix of awe and determination on their faces. They had started this journey as explorers and peacekeepers. Now, they would become the torchbearers of a cosmic legacy. Zara knelt beside Zeke, wrapping him in a gentle hug. Well, little one, she whispered, it looks like our greatest adventure is just beginning. Zeke chirped in agreement, his eyes sparkling with the light of countless stars. As the Stargazer II prepared to make history once again, Zara couldn't help but marvel at how it had all begun, with a simple act of compassion towards a small, alien pet. The legacy of the Stargazer, of humanity's kindness and the harmonizer's wisdom, would echo through the cosmos for eons to come. And it all started with a heart big enough to love an abandoned creature from the stars. As the ship descended towards the Aeolian world, Zara and Zeke stood side by side, ready to face whatever wonders and challenges awaited them. The future was bright, filled with endless possibilities, and they would face it together, human and alien, united by bonds stronger than the very fabric of spacetime itself. The greatest adventure in the history of the galaxy was about to unfold, and at its heart was the enduring power of compassion, courage, and the unbreakable bond between species. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, welcoming the dawn of a new era of peace, understanding, and exploration.